Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by tall baobab trees and endless golden savanna, there lived a young maiden named Zainab. Everyone in the village knew her, not only because she was beautiful, but because she was kind. Her smile could calm an angry heart, and her gentle voice could comfort even the saddest soul. Zainab lived with her father, Malam Musa, a humble trader who sold grains and firewood in the village market. Life had never been easy for them, but they loved each other deeply and always thanked God for whatever little they had. Zainab often helped her father with his work. In the mornings, she fetched water from the river, and in the evenings, she sat beside the cooking fire while her father told stories about the world beyond their village. Even though many young men admired Zainab for her beauty, she cared more about kindness and honesty than wealth or power. She often told her father that a good heart was more valuable than gold. One year, a terrible drought came upon the land. The rains refused to fall, and the farms turned dry and cracked. Crops failed. Animals grew thin, and hunger slowly spread across the village like a dark cloud. Malam Musa struggled to find food to sell, and many nights he and Zainab slept with empty stomachs. Yet, Zainab never complained. She always encouraged her father, telling him that hard times never last forever. One evening, as the sun sank behind the distant hills, Malam Musa sighed heavily and said, "My daughter, tomorrow I must travel deep into the forest. Perhaps I can find wild fruits or honey to sell in the market. We cannot sit and wait for hunger to defeat us." The forest was known to be mysterious and dangerous, and many villagers believed strange spirits lived there. But Malam Musa had no choice. At dawn the next morning, he set out on his journey, carrying only a small bag and a walking stick. As he walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller and the air became cooler. The sounds of birds slowly faded, and an eerie silence filled the woods. By the time evening arrived, Malam Musa realized he had wandered too far. The forest paths twisted in every direction, and he no longer knew the way home. Fear began to grip his heart as darkness approached. Just when he thought all hope was lost, he saw a soft golden light glowing between the trees. Curious and desperate, he walked toward it. Soon he found himself standing before something unbelievable, a magnificent palace standing in the middle of the forest. Its tall white walls shone under the moonlight, and golden lanterns hung from the pillars like stars. Malam Musa stared in disbelief. He had never seen such beauty in his life. The palace gates were open, so he slowly stepped inside. The place looked alive, even though no servants or guards were in sight. The halls were decorated with fine carpets, sparkling lamps, and paintings of kings and warriors. As he walked further inside, a delicious smell reached his nose. In the grand dining hall stood a long table filled with steaming dishes, rice, roasted meat, sweet fruits, and fresh water. Malam Musa looked around nervously and called out, but no one answered. Hunger finally overcame his fear, and he sat down to eat. When he finished, his strength returned, and he felt grateful for the mysterious kindness of whoever owned the palace. Before leaving, he wandered into the palace garden, where flowers of every color grew in perfect rows. In the center of the garden stood the most beautiful rose he had ever seen. Its petals glowed softly like gold under the moonlight. Malam Musa smiled as he looked at it. Zainab loved flowers more than anything. He gently picked the rose, thinking of the joy it would bring to his daughter. But the moment the stem snapped, a thunderous roar echoed through the garden. The ground shook beneath his feet, and a terrifying presence filled the air. From the shadows stepped a gigantic lion with golden fur and glowing eyes. This was no ordinary lion. There was intelligence and sorrow in its gaze, and when it spoke, its voice sounded deep and human. "Who dares to steal my rose?" the lion thundered. Mala Musa dropped to his knees in terror. His body trembled as he begged for mercy. "Please forgive me, mighty one. I meant no harm. I only wished to bring the flower to my daughter. She loves flowers more than anything." The lion walked slowly around him, studying him carefully. After a moment, its voice softened slightly. "That rose is the most precious thing in my garden. No one takes it without paying a price." Mala Musa's heart sank as he realized he might not leave the palace alive. But then the lion paused and said something unexpected. "You say the flower is for your daughter? Very well. I will spare your life, but there is a condition." Hope flickered in Mala Musa's eyes. "Your daughter must come here and take your place. If she refuses, you must return to face the punishment yourself." Mala Musa returned home before sunrise, shaken by fear and guilt. When he told Zainab everything that had happened, the villagers who overheard the story were horrified. They begged him never to return to the forest again. But Zainab listened quietly, holding the golden rose in her hands. Finally, she looked at her father with calm determination. "Father," she said softly, "you picked this flower because of me. I cannot allow you to suffer for my sake." Mala Musa shook his head desperately. "No, my daughter, I will go back myself. I will not let that beast take you." But Zainab gently held his hands and smiled. "You have spent your life protecting me. Now it is my turn to protect you." Before dawn the next day, Zainab walked alone into the forest. Her heart was afraid, but her courage was stronger. When she finally reached the palace, the giant lion appeared before her once again. His glowing eyes watched her closely as she bowed respectfully. "I have come to keep my father's promise," she said. The lion expected her to tremble or run away, but Zainab stood calmly before him. Something about her bravery surprised him. Instead of harming her, he allowed her to stay in the palace. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Zainab slowly discovered that the terrifying lion was not cruel as everyone believed. He provided her with food, showed her the palace gardens, and even listened to her stories about the village. Although his appearance was frightening, his actions were gentle. One evening, as they sat under the moonlight in the garden, Zainab finally asked him why he lived alone in such a beautiful palace. The lion looked away and sighed deeply before telling her the truth. Long ago, he had been a prince, proud and arrogant. One night, an old woman came to the palace seeking shelter, but he mocked her and drove her away because of her poor appearance. The woman revealed herself as a powerful spirit and cursed him to live as a beast until someone could see the goodness within him and truly care for him despite his appearance. For many years, travelers who discovered the palace fled in terror when they saw him. No one stayed long enough to know his heart. No one except Zainab. As the months passed, the friendship between Zainab and the lion grew stronger. She began to see beyond his frightening form, recognizing the loneliness and kindness hidden within him. The lion, in turn, learnt what it meant to care for someone without pride or selfishness. One evening, however, the lion suddenly became weak and collapsed beside the rose garden. The magical rose that symbolized the curse began losing its petals one by one. The lion whispered that the curse was ending, and with it, his life. Zainab knelt beside him with tears streaming down her face. She held his giant paw and told him he was not a monster, but the kindest soul she had ever known. She confessed that she cared for him deeply and could not imagine the world without him. At that very moment, the final petal fell from the rose, and a brilliant golden light filled the garden. The lion's massive body began to change. His fur disappeared, his claws became hands, and the terrifying beast transformed into a young prince with warm golden eyes. The curse had been broken at last. The palace came alive again with music, laughter, and people who had been trapped by the magic for years. Word spread across the kingdom about the brave maiden who saw goodness where others saw only a beast. The prince later traveled to Zainab's village and asked Mala Musa's blessing to marry his daughter. The village celebrated for many days, and Zainab became a beloved queen known for her kindness and wisdom. And from that day forward, people told the story of the maiden and the cursed lion to remind their children of an important truth. True beauty is not found in appearances, but in the kindness, patience, and love that live within a person's heart.